you beautiful people out there. And of course, love Coach Gaka Thomas. I'm here with my wonderful partner, Trish, and four really wonderful women for us to learn from. I've met all of them just very recently. Suzette and I have been in communication. She encouraged me to do a show on tonight's topic, parental alienation, and I didn't even know what it was. So I thought, if I don't know what this is, we should do a show on it because that means other people don't know about it. And Suzette has brought in three other women, all of whom have had either very powerful and profound direct experiences of the impact of parental alienation. And in the case of Robin, she is a very well-renowned attorney who has been fighting this battle in the courts for many, many, many years. So um, Trish and I are going to pretty much just ask questions. But as always, I am going to be, if you see me looking down, I'm going to be checking what's going on in the chat box, both on our Facebook pages and of course here in the chat in the room. And I want to welcome those of you who are in the room with us. Thank you. Uh, and please put your, oh good, I see some friends with us. Please put your thoughts, comments, and questions in the chat box. And likewise, if you're watching on Facebook live, or if you're watching the recording, still put in your questions. And of course, the people who put them in live, I'll repeat them and bring them up for our panel. For those of you who do it after the show, which is the majority of you, I will still go back and take a look, and maybe Suzette and some of the other ladies will as well. I'm going to start by putting the spotlight on Claudia because she has gone through this twice from two different perspectives. And so, Claudia, please tell us a little bit, and thank you for joining us. Thanks for being here tonight. And tell us a little bit about your two experiences.
Okay, I'm sorry. I actually live in Texas. Um, that's where I reside. But I advocate all over because, especially in California, because that's where my children are. Um, I raised my children when after my divorce, and they lived with me. But when I agreed to them living with their father, that's when everything changed. That's when the communication stopped. That's when there were a lot of excuses about visitation, and that was only for my older child. And so then when his behavior changed, that's when I started questioning a lot, but he would use words like, well, this is more important. He wants to do this, kind of work with him, listen to the child. And I did. He kept telling me he was happy and this is what he wanted. So I accepted it, not knowing what parental alienation was. So I went with it. And then years later, after I remarried, things got really bad. And there was a pursuit for my young son, and we had all the professionals involved, and they agreed that the child should remain with me because they saw the difference in the older child. So so that was fine, and I relocated to Florida at the time because my husband was military. And one day after Christmas, I sent him to California, and he's not returned. He just didn't return him, which put me in a really, paranoid mode because I knew what was going to happen. I knew it based on the age of the child, how it was done. And I getting back to Texas, because this is where our order was, and getting one on board to believe me that I know what's going to happen. Y'all need to help me. What can I do to get my child back? And it's a long process. You go through the whole system, and there's obstacles that you have to go through. And I agreed to let him try it out just so everyone can see what's going to happen and why they need to intervene. Well, one hurdle turns into another. By that time, I'm getting denied access. False allegations of child abuse are filed against me in another state that I'm not even living in. And so I have to defend myself along these steps for about a 2-year time span. But getting denied access with a child who was a very loving child. I mean, just loving. I love you, mom, can you rub my feet? Just having a really good relationship with the child, to now, I hate you. You're crazy. You're stupid. I don't ever want to see you again. that changed completely in 8 months' time. And again, trying to get someone to believe you with what was going to happen. So in Texas, we're the only state that allows jury trials. And to outspend me, he requested a jury trial. And I hung in there. I sold everything I possibly could. I fundraised, I borrowed money, I exhausted retirements, everything to hang in there. And by the time we got to the jury trial, they determined the child was too far gone, too damaged to save. And so they gave sole custody to my ex-husband. And I was never found to be an unfit mother, but my rights were taken. So I can't make certain decisions. I see my son now, but he's a very isolated young man. And my older son no longer talks to me. He refers to me by Claudia. He doesn't refer to me by mom. And I think the last major event that I tried to attend was his graduation. I went to San Francisco to visit him. My parents went with me. I was extended tickets a couple of months prior, and we arrived there and were completely denied. That he just takes the tickets away, and he tells me that I could actually see our son graduate from the hotel, and I saw him graduate from my phone. And that was it. That was the experience, and I fought hard for my young son because I knew it would happen. And so now I advocate because this is a major issue. I advocate. I try to help other parents. I legislate as much as I can because there needs to be more awareness. Laws really need to be changed with regards to this. I hear a lot of stories, but when I hear them, they're people that are just starting off with young children. And imagining that I went through this from the age of the child from 13 and up, imagine starting at this at 2, at 3, and how far they have to go to get someone to listen and get some type of help. Because by the time you get through the court system, you've exhausted everything, and it impacts your life. It impacts your marriage, your work, everything. And it's just overwhelming. And not every parent, everyone handles it differently because we're all at different stages. And I say that a lot to parents. Mm-hmm. There are good days and there are bad days. And, I miss my sons all the time. I do, but I can text one and he will never respond. And I can text the other one and I might get a couple of words in. I'll get a 2-minute call a week and that's about it. But I still try. So, I mean, it's just really hard.
Claudia, I'm going to go to gallery view for a minute. That is heartbreaking. And I want just take a moment to feel into the years and years and years of frustration, horror, to have the child that you love more than anything, because mothers love their children more than anything. Mm-hmm. And to have them turned against you and to be disconnected, that's really hurt. That's horrifying. I'm so grateful that you're willing to be here and share your story and open our hearts and open our minds. I'm going to put the spotlight on Petra, who has her own story from the child's perspective. And we just heard what it's like for a mother to be alienated from their own child unfairly. Now we're going to hear what it's like when the child is disconnected from their parents. And again, Petra, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I mean, before I go into my story, I just wanted to say Claudia has been amazing supporter to parents out there. She's been a great leader in this field. So I just wanted to point that out. It is heartbreaking to hear her story, just like so many other stories out there. But I experienced this as a child. My mother, since forever, had this into my head that my father is a monster. I never questioned her. There was never anything specific that I knew of that made him the monster, but I just parroted this narrative and I just repeated it over and over. And I think the only thing that he did is that he divorced my mother, and with that she sort of lumped me with her. So the fact that he divorced her, that means that he abandoned me, but that's not the case at all. So I grew up and just carried this narrative and just go, he's a monster, he's a monster. I refuse contact with him. He, just all my life, I did everything I could to shut him down. Even when I was an adult, he reached out to me on Facebook and I publicly humiliated him, you know all these things. And I never, and it's crazy because a lot of parents will say, like, a lot of parents with their children become adults, they think, okay, why don't they see now? They are adults now, they should be able to see it. Well, when you're being brainwashed all of your life by someone that you trust, which is the other parent, in my case it's my mother, you have no way of knowing any differently. And so by the time this just happened like last year, that's when I found out that it's actually one of my relatives reached out and said, I cannot stay silent any longer. I need to talk to you because your mother's done a lot to prevent your father from being able to be in your life. I never had that conversation with that relative. I mean, I can, but I just never did. But immediately I started to look into it, and I started to learn about this. And then I also Googled for his name, and I found, well, my father by now had passed. He passed a number of years ago. So I Googled and found a website that he created for me with his writings, with copy of the letters between the two of them, things that she did, things that he tried to do to get me back, his letters that he wrote, his poems, his photos. It's horrible because I never get a chance to reconnect with him. And the thing is, you talk about how the attachment model in our life, everyone needs both parents. And when you don't have one parent, it impacts every aspect of your life. But it's worse when you reject a parent because of the lies by another parent. Because when you're an adult, you have so much guilt. I'm sorry.
No,
Anyway,
Carmen, thank you so much. Take your time. Your tears are absolutely welcome here. You're absolutely welcome.
I'm sorry. But anyway, so that's my story.
I just really, first of all, thank you for sharing.
It really impacted every aspect of my life. Every aspect of my life. And I've talked to over 200 adult children like me. And it impacted every aspect of their lives. It destroyed lives.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I do want to take a moment just to, as sad as it is and somewhat tragic, how beautiful it was that your father still, instead of just giving up and quitting, that he took the time to create that website and to provide you with his story and his photos. And there's something actually very beautiful about that. Very, very beautiful.
Mhm.
I think that's the only way that I could heal. I don't think that I would have been okay if I didn't have those. I think I'm grateful that he left that for me, because really, if you don't have a way of reconnecting and healing in some way, then yeah, I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you, Roel. And of course, we're going to hear from everybody. I want to thank Suzette, who brought all these women into our world and together. Thank you, Suzette. And I also want to acknowledge in our Zoom room is a man named Matt. And you all might want to, when you get a chance, take a look at his comments. He's in the throes of this challenge. And so a little bit later on in the show, we're going to bring Matt actually on camera, where maybe you can give him some advice. And that's a good segue to Robin, who is a very well-renowned attorney. She is respected and has been involved on a legal level with many, many cases of this nature. And so I've asked Robin to share with us a little bit about the history and a little bit about kind of some of the legal parameters for us to understand as it relates to this issue. So thank you, Robin, for being with us.
Oh, it's interesting to me to hear there are two battles about alienation that occurs. One is in the courtroom, that's where I would battle it. And then there's the personal battle, like Petra had to fight. And that's usually away from me. And I'm doing the courtroom fighting. And what happened was I've been a lawyer 50 years.
Wow.
In fact, in January, that was my anniversary. And we never heard of parental alienation. It was nothing, not even imagined. And then in 1992, a Child Support Act was passed, which was intended to compel payment of child support. And everything changed. You can't imagine. And so it used to be like maybe a third custody, a third support, a third property would be my work. And in 1992, the custody wars break like a wave. And most people don't discuss why, but I'm a person who runs around asking why all the time. And what happened was when they had this child support law, which occurred, the particularly high income dads here in Silicon Valley, where I practice, decided that what they really need is custody of their little darling to avoid paying support. And so they would fight, they had the money, and we go through these gigantic battles. As they look around for a weapon with which to hit mother over the head, why, here's the weapon, the parental alienation syndrome. Not just alienation, but some kind of syndrome. It was made up by psychiatrist Dr. Richard Gardner. Nothing in this book is the result of research, peer review research, anything like that. It's just, this was his opinion after talking to people and based on his opinion of women and children. And then it came in like Dr. Gardner would go to the East Coast and his psychological fee as an expert in a case would be $50,000. I mean, it just burst upon the scene. And the people out here, the psychologists out here thought, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But what the regular dads, the plain old guys who were kind of nice and did what they should do, it didn't affect them. They didn't come in demanding custody, but the abusers, the people who did emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, they came in and said, this witch has bewitched my child. I'm so innocent and she has done this. And then all the psychologists are like, oh yeah, well, those dads will pay us, so we'll go in and say that. And it was just a complete nightmare. And at one point, there was a battle against parental alienation syndrome, and they dropped off the word syndrome as if that made a difference. And they wanted, the dads who were abusers wanted to get the diagnosis into the DSM, which is the official American Psychiatric Association thing that lists what is a disorder, and they wanted the mothers branded as alienators. And it was just a nightmare period of time. And it's gotten better since then, but it's really clear what set off the wars, and it was the Child Support Recovery Act of 1992, and then in 96 there was another act, and the law said, see, it used to be, what does mother say? I won't take any child support. I don't want anything. Just give me my children. Well, the new law is aimed directly at the heart of women, because these women don't deserve welfare and we have to get them off welfare. That was the idea. So they insist that each state must have an effective mechanism for enforcement of child support. And they did. They, like in California, you know, it was the truth that we used to have guys who wouldn't pay and their arrearage would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then at some point, California gets to the point where if you don't pay, we're going to take your driver's license. In fact, we're going to take your MD or your law license. You're going to have to pay your support. And pretty much the employers were directed to pay the support straight to mother. He couldn't have an arrearage. If he was employed, it would get paid to her, assuming her attorney wasn't completely brain dead. And so the dads began having to pay, and that was when the abusers with money really decided they would fight it out no matter what. They would fight it in court to any extent. And the psychologists, the experts, they're like, pay me. I'll say what's necessary. And it was just a horrible nightmare. And it's still going on.
It sounds like there's a lot of facets to this particular to parental alienation. We're hearing impact from parents, we're hearing impact from children, and we're also hearing the legal impact that has, I mean the legality of all this, like this sort of pitting parents against each other and pitting children against the parents has been going on for a very long time. But I'm hearing from Robin that that the child support system has really created a legal battle that's really affecting all of our whole panel right now.
Oh, and part of what had happened is the feminist lawyers are begging, could we raise child support? I remember having a case where the daughter worked at Der Wiener Schnitzel and she brought the garbage home so the family could eat. And we wanted child support that was even higher than that. Then when the child support got both made enforceable and raised in the context of an attack on women, an attack on welfare, we're taking away your welfare and we don't care if you're thrown in the street with your darn kids. And when we won what we've been fighting for so many years, then it was really catastrophe in that context.
One of the things we do on this show is we read comments from our viewers, and I just want to read a few. Al Gonzalez writes, the whole system is counterproductive to what is best for children and what is best for society. Matt, we're going to bring you on, so I'll actually read your comments later. But Matt is who's going through it right now. And Arshia has a question for Petra. Her question is, Petra, do you think as an alienated child, connecting the child with an expert PA psychologist using a court order would make a difference in changing the PA symptoms so that the child and parent could connect once again?
Yeah, so there are, if you have a court order that allow you to be able to reconnect and reunify with your children, and it definitely depends on your level of severity. So when it comes to parental alienation, there are 3 different level of severity. If you go into the severe level and you still have, if the child still have contact with the alienator, then it's counterproductive to have any kind of therapy, because the alienator will continue to abuse the child. Now it's like putting somebody that have a gun against their head and then forcing them to say something different than what the person holding the gun wanting the child to say. So if you have a severe situation, you can't do much. So you have to get the court to intervene to make sure that the child does not have contact with the alienator for a period of time so that you can rebuild that relationship. If you are not in a severe situation, then yeah, it would be different. You could potentially have therapy. There are programs out there, but the fundamental key on this is that the child is under a pressure. The child is under this pressure where the alienator is put the child in the middle of a conflict, a loyalty conflict. The child has to be loyal to the alienator. So as long as that pressure can be released, if it's through the court system or through whatever the way that you can, if you can remove that pressure, then that loving relationship between you and your child is totally intact. You can totally recover that relationship. Really, the moment you remove that pressure, then you'll find that the child will be released almost immediately and completely.
Wow. Thank you. That was very, very clear. Nancy asks, and I'll go back to gallery review while I read this, and this is open to anybody, probably Robin. Why can't the court's judge recommend that the parents take a communication course to make the relationship amiable? It seems, this is Nancy still speaking, old patterns clashing with old patterns. Why not have the judge request compatible solutions to create new patterns? Robin, I see Suzette.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would answer
There,
that.
one of
I-
the problems is they can't figure out what to do. And typically, I used to just do all my cases. Pre-92, just do the cases, put them through the conveyor belt, get them to the end. As of 92, the cases divided into abuse and regular. And the abuse cases don't go anything like the regular cases. And the person who has the money, generally one, or family backing them up, then that person will fight just on and on and on and on. Everything will be fought. Nothing will be settled. And if you bring in the 2 people and try to act like you're having a regular conversation and you're trying to help them get along, it's not going to happen. There was a time when the National Organization for Women took a position against mediation because they found the women would just get verbally beat up in the process. And you can't get the people who are just determined to fight to the end and have the money and a lawyer, and the judge sees the person in court and thinks they seem so nice. It's just an impossible situation.
Okay, well, thank you, Robin. And I want to give Suzette a chance because I could see you had quite a response to Suzette.
Hold on. I'm getting trigger happy with my mute button. Thank you. And by the way, I really want to thank Claudia, who has supported me, and I met her and connected with her very fast. She's the one who connected me to the state legislation committees. She introduced me to Petra. She has been like a rock, and Al Gonzalez. There's a group there that we met through. And I'll recognize that. But to answer that question, my personal experience, that as you can see, my body language is probably very passionate about. There's multiple layers of this discourse. Number one, you ask, why does the judge not see it? A lot of these judges have never practiced family law in their life. A lot of these judges, if you see their background, they're corporate attorneys. They may be defense attorneys. They may be coming from probate, but there's maybe a 5-hour training for family law. 5 hours. That's it. So that's number one. Number two, the process, and Robin, please correct me if I'm wrong, the process for family court is in the best interest of the child. So there goes your due process if you're falsely accused. There goes any form of representation. If, let's say, if you also, the other item, number three, if you have guardian ad litem or minors counsel who is siding with one parent and you're not staying neutral, that's also another layer that the judge will listen. The judge usually will listen to guardian ad litem. Sorry, I'm getting all distracted from the chats. But those are layers, right? No due process. You could get your child faster in probate, being a criminal with a felony, and to see your child than you can being a very respectable person of the community. And that is failure of due process, failure of constitutional rights, as Claudia kindly introduced me, violation of color of law. Now, I would love for the fact we could get people into a room and speak. My custody case started to escalate after my former spouse got remarried, because then it became a queen bee competition, which I'm totally against. I don't need to be queen bee, but I want to do what's best interest of my daughter and the stepchildren and what other children that are about to come in. Now, the challenge is you're working with people who are very wounded. This is when I start calling it about a systemic situation. They're wounded from their childhood, from their background, from their culture. In my case, my former partner was born and raised in a very wealthy European country, very comfortable. So a lot of times I'm assuming it was cultural difference, you know, as is his wife. She was raised in another country. So, you know, some people say it's a cultural issue. It's a value issue. The challenge is there's no training. Judges don't get enough training. The therapists that sometimes they allow in the system do not have the training. Zero high conflict court experience, zero training about attachment. There's a, I don't know if you all like him, but I do, Dr. Greg Childress. I have a lot of respect for his work, especially for attachment, me personally. I'm still learning. I mean, my area is understanding the discourse, which is my academic background, you know, litigation, not litigation, legislation. My background is a lot about public administration and politics. So the problem is there's no education, and there's no way of us, I think, sometimes to go down to the root, right? All the way down to the root. And what I want to share is that this is a form of corrosive control. A lot of times it has a history of domestic violence, and there's so many different layers and aspects. We're going to have to break it down and categorize it and look at what we could do, because for a situation, they'll just send you an anger management class, right? They'll have you do a psychological review, you know, or have the parent being alienated go through a psychological review, but not the other parent. And then the question is, who's doing the psychological review? What is their background? You know? So as much I want to have a black and white answer to this, there really is none. I would 100% say right now, the judges need to be educated, and the judges need to be family attorneys before they enter the court. And that's my personal opinion. And then we could go on mental health professions. We could go on the community, the tribe that's there to help the family, you know, because respectfully, not everyone's going to be able to understand what they're doing is wrong. You have people with some serious conditions that do not understand pain. They do not have empathy. It's about power and control. And sometimes because of free will, no one could be educated enough to get through that threshold. And hopefully some other ones can.
Can
Yes.
I just add something to Suzette's
Yes.
comment? Yeah, so that is so important what she brought up. And I want to add that not only is there a lack of education in all layers, talking about, you know, judges, professional, lawyers, therapists, like, you know, all those people like mental health professional, police, force, child protective agencies, all layers. But there's another aspect of it is that parental alienation is very counterintuitive. So when you look at a child that rejecting a parent, immediately society and everyone will immediately think something is wrong with that parent. That parent must have been abusive or neglecting or something. We don't stop and think, oh, has this child been brainwashed? Has this child been manipulated? We don't think about that. And you can have the best therapist in the world who doesn't know parental alienation that will look at it and misdiagnose it. And as a therapist, their role in general is to support their client. So if you have an alienated child, to see a therapist that doesn't know parental alienation, and when this therapist hear the child saying, oh, I don't want to see my dad or I don't want to see my mom, the therapist will say, oh, okay, I'm going to support you. Let me help you not see your dad or your mom, and they will then further, they become one of the alienators because it's so counterintuitive. So we don't need the best therapist in the world to solve this. We need a therapist that know parental alienation.
Oh, and the other person, there's another person who will join with the alienator, and that is if they appoint an attorney for the child, then no other attorney can speak to the child. So that has the effect of gagging the child, and the people who they choose to appoint all the time, well, let me say, I took all the classes I got already. You want to know how many appointments I got over the years I was ready for that? Nada, nothing. I'm not in with the in crowd. And these other people, chances of them siding with an abuser and against their own client are very great.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to point out that a lot of these cases, they're identified as high conflict cases, but they're not all high conflict. There's an individual that is high conflict that's causing this issue. And on all of these professionals that are not experienced, I had an immigration judge who listened to a 5-day jury trial, and he did not overturn a jury's verdict of allowing the child to return with the alienator. And 2 months later, he called it. What happened here? This was parental alienation. The father was the problem. He empowered the child against his mother. And he agreed with the psychic evaluator that testified at my trial. He said, I agree with him, but he did not overturn the ruling, and he left it as is. And even now, my rights to even take my child to a counselor have been removed. I can't even work on the relationship with my child. And I have to ask him. And when I ask him, of course, he's not going to agree because he doesn't want anyone to know his false narrative. So at this point, we are dealing with a lot of systems that are just uneducated. They don't know what to call this. They don't know how to identify it. They just, they're just going with it. And it's hurting lots of families. Definitely hurting lots of families.
This is powerful. This is really a thank you, ladies, so much. I do want to read a couple more comments because I really like to engage our viewers. Al writes, Suzette is accurate in the fact that this is a complex issue that is multifaceted. Legislation is poorly written, with judges having quite a bit of judicial discretion, while the case law is not fully developed to truly help or guide the judges to take action that would help the children the most. The attorney is very accurate about whoever has more money has a distinct advantage and is able to make cases very complex with sometimes false accusations. Arshia writes, our smart judge has an engineering background who went to law school and practiced IP law and then became a judge. Our case was among the first family law which this judge has to take. Smart judge, but only 2.5 years of family law experience. And then finally, Al writes back just now, visiting is very different than parenting time or time sharing. My daughter or I are not visiting. The language used is also another issue.
Absolutely. It should be parenting time, not visitation time.
Right. Well, how do you feel about me bringing Matt up? So Matt, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. And I don't know if the ladies got a chance to read your story or not.
I I just want to mention something real quick as we're
Sure.
talking about, especially with everything we're seeing, the paradigm shifting in our culture right now. There's no paradigm for this. There's no paradigm. There's not even a category for this, because there's also, as the child gets older, you don't know if they're giving them alcohol. You don't know if they're giving other things to influence them and being scripted. I want to throw up a couple of academic names real quick, and I know you want to get to Matt, and I apologize for this. I
No,
just
that's
want to
fine.
thank you, because I
You're
do see
doing
some.
great, Suzette. You're doing great.
Thank you. Because I just want to really recognize people who don't like the word parental alienation. And I just want to mention a couple academics. Linda Alcoff, Dr. Linda Alcoff talks about the a lot of the problem of speaking for others. Who's speaking for who? Are we representing people properly when we're going into items like this? Dr. Jane Caputi, along with Mary Daly, did this big project trying to redo the patriarchal dictionary. Jane Caputi is a professor at Florida Atlantic University, and Mary Daly used to be at UC Berkeley. And they really talk about the stems, because there's a lot of domestic violence group that don't like the word parental alienation. And I try to be really respectful, because I'm still understanding the roots and the proper representation. I mean, we're just learning through this process as we go. So I would really encourage people to check them out, along with Kenneth Burke, who talks about the power of words, syntax, symbolism, because we're symbolic, using animals as we're working through this. There really needs to be an area of study here. And with that,
I'm sorry, if
say
we are
thank you.
talking about parental alienation, I think we would be amiss if we're not mentioning the key experts in the field of parental alienation, like Dr. Amy Baker, Dr. William Burnett, Dr. Jennifer Hammond, Dr. Steve Miller. These are just amazing experts out there that done decades of research in the field of parental alienation, looking at the impact on the children, looking at the alienating behaviors that the alienators use, looking at the society impact of parental alienation in all those aspects. Yeah.
Yes, and I just want to mention real quick, because this is my area. I would have my PhD right now studying social discourse, institutions, and power structure. That's my passion. I have a friend, she's visiting from Colorado. She's a trauma specialist. She does Eastern and Western type of therapy. She's doing her PhD. She's in the chat room right now. Her name is Kitty Davidson. And one thing we were speaking about is because the people in her field are now using parental disaffection, affectation. I can't even say it. Parental disaffection. And how powerful the words are to make sure we're representing every group properly, with their roots, with their research. And as I said, this is something that I'm diving in a different level, and the trauma it causes. We were just talking earlier about how we're traumatized as parents. The children are traumatized. You are for life, and this is something that definitely needs to be addressed. Thank
I
you.
wanted to say something on Amy Baker is a problem. I was at a seminar where she just lied about Paul Fink, who is the key person he's former chair of the American Psychiatric Association, and he fought the battle to keep parental alienation out of the DSM, which doesn't mean it's nothing. It's just not mother has a mental diagnosis. Amy Baker said Paul Fink changed his mind. I guarantee you it is simply not true. So all these people, we got to check out, read what they wrote, how they changed and everything. I have Amy Baker's book right here.
So Robin, thank you. And I'm going to come in for a moment, because one of the approaches that Trish and I take with this show is we want to hear people's personal stories, but I'm going to request that we do not name names from this point on of anyone that you have an issue with. I want to hear about your personal experience. I want to hear your wisdom, but on this show, I don't feel comfortable naming the name of someone who's not here to represent themselves. And I don't think it's necessary. And it can distract from what's so important, because each of you are sharing so much wisdom. All right. And that's a segue actually to you, Matt. My request, and by the way, I've never met Matt. I don't know anything other than he came in and shared his story. So my request, Matt, is as you share your story, if you could honor what I just requested, not to name the name of whoever you're in dispute with, but just to talk about your experience. And then my understanding is you want to ask for some support and some help. And I'm hoping you'll be able to get some tonight.
Gotcha. Scott, thanks so much for running this call. And I got the Zoom invite from Suzette. So Suzette's in a group that we meet with on WhatsApp, Zoom sessions, and just commiserate, just share our stories, share our frustrations. We're all in the same boat. We want to be moms. We want to be dads, just like we always were. Right now I'm fighting a lot of abuse claims. Unfortunately, one of them was proven to be true, but ultimately not true. It's just the way it went. I have a long history of being very involved with my children, very loving relationship. I was their soccer coach, basketball coach, did everything with them, took them spring break adventures, what a dad should do, a very involved dad. After that happened, the phones were blocked. Then we tried to get a therapist involved. The kids put a cover over the camera. They didn't want to talk to me. We don't like you. You were only a coach. We didn't like going to Dave & Buster's, Dad. We didn't like doing that. You wanted to do that. It just devastated me. It crushed me. Luckily, groups like this and connecting with people has helped me tremendously. Going back to church and finding support there, going to therapy. I never thought anything like this would happen to me because I didn't actually abuse anyone. I approach this person about a problem that she was having, and that didn't turn out well. I just want time with my kids. I know my kids. I mourn for them every day. Petra, I'm so appreciative of what you do. I follow your lives. I was on today too. Your story just breaks my heart. I'm so appreciative, and your dad would be very proud of you, of what you're doing. Like, I'm just amazed at seeing some of these, like, Dad's Live group or whatever that, I can't even remember them all, but I'm just amazed at the people that are actually helping and bringing this to light. Because I want to be that person too. I told my mom, I said, I'm going to run for Congress. I'm changing these laws. I'm not stopping after I get my kids. There's other parents out there that are experiencing this. I'm not going to have it. It's child abuse. I'm not going to have my child be abused. And I hired a guardian. And that guardian doesn't communicate with me. Why would I hire a guardian if she does not want to communicate with me? She took the side. They don't like Dad. What are we going to do? I don't know what to do. Hired a psychologist. The psychologist barely dipped into what the real issues were. So I hired another one out of my own pocket. The second one. Oh, well, we don't want to communicate with this psychologist, the one that you picked, the one that knows what's going on. So then court orders get pushed back. I'm 2 years alienated. I haven't seen my kid in 770 days. One day I'm soccer coach. One day I'm dad, taking them places, meeting them at the bus stop. The next day my stuff's packed in a car. Where am I going to go? I find out there's affairs going on, multiple. But they see me as the bad one. I've also been recorded. My responses to an argument are on the record where she's playing a victim. Playing the victim is this big thing that people do. It's tough when you go in there with something against you, and then somebody's playing a victim, and then they start stacking all these other things up, all these lies. It's like, well, who do we believe? But I believe that she's been exposed on depositions, and the truth will come to light. The truth always comes to light. You just got to keep pushing. It may not be the timing that we want, but it will come. It will come out. And I'm going to do everything I can to protect my kids, and every child and parent that's going through this. I'm going to try and be an advocate. I mean, I used to be a coach. I'm like, what's my next role? I need to do something with this. I need to help. So anyway, that's pretty much my story right now.
Well, thank you, Matt. And I'd love to open it up to Petra or any of the other women if they have like advice or something to share.
Yeah,
Petra?
thank you so much, Matt, for sharing that with us. Unfortunately, when it comes to parental alienation, false allegation is a very common tactic. It's almost a textbook for alienators to do. They will stack up false allegation after false allegation after false allegation and hoping something will stick. And you don't have a perfect parent ever. You never have a perfect parent. So something out of that, they're going to be able to find something. And the other thing is we bring in, for example, expert like Elizabeth Loftus, who did study on false memory, memory distortion. And she showed us how easily it is for the child to be manipulated and then can come up with an entirely false memory about something that never happened or something that happened but completely different outcome. So, the situation like Matt is unfortunate, but it's very common. I don't know. And then the other situation, like we mentioned, is that professionals are not educated in this. So we have the situation where professional will play the role of the alienators. And then the other thing is that you see, like, for example, in this case, like Claudia and me, like as a victim, we are traumatized. So when we talk about this, we come across as, being, I don't know, sort of unstable, mentally unstable in some way, because we are the victim of trauma. So it's very easy for people to misdiagnose this because, the alienator will stand tall and manipulative and come across like, the perfect parent. And then the alienated parents, they lost their children. So they traumatized. And then people look at them as if, oh, this is an unfit parent because they are so frantic and, irritable and, panicking. So that's why, the system just don't know how to look at this, unfortunately. And when as a parent, it always hit you in the most unexpected way because you don't know what you're looking at. You've never seen this before. Most of the time, people, when you talk about parental alienation, they go, "What is that?" Nobody know what it is. And some people will misunderstand it. They even thought parental alienation mean that the parent abandon the child or something like that. They don't understand that term. So they misunderstand it. So in the term of this situation like Matt, like how shocking it is for him. One day he's a loving dad, fully involved, and then the next day he's out of the door and he never heard from the children again. And then I'm sure the children saying, that he's abusive and the ex is, I'm sure, saying he's abusive. And then I'm sure there's going to be a whole lot of people around the ex that are going to be saying that he has been abusive, even though all along he's probably a great dad. And that's the problem. With situation like Matt, I think he's doing the right thing by being educated. Like the first thing and the most important things that parents have to do is to get educated in this, because you are not in a normal parenting range anymore. You are in a very, very dangerous situation. You have a malicious abuser who will go out of their way to do things to harm you and harm your relationship with your child at all costs, even if it means destroying the child. So you are dealing with a very dangerous situation. So you have to get educated. You can't hand your case over to a lawyer and expecting a lawyer to just take that. You can't hand it to a therapist and expect the therapist. You have to get educated yourself and be in the driver's seat first to drive your case so that you can build the right team around you. having the right team around you is so critical.
Petra, if I could say something with that, I think the problem is too, and I think Scott's connecting with Katie Davidson. She's one of her expertise is in trauma, and she's a former veteran as well and a mother. Is that you get to the point where you have so much trauma from the false allegations, from going into survival, and hopefully you don't your health is okay, because I know this has totally demolished my health in so many ways. You become challenged even putting papers together, even working with anything that is the basics, and reaching out for help to create that tribe sometimes is the biggest challenge, because so many people don't know. So many people don't know. And the false allegations, do you believe I sent the district attorney's office videos, pictures of what my former spouse was doing to my daughter? And we already had problems ongoing. And instead of returning back to California, and I have Minors Counsel. I don't know if anyone saw the movie I Care a Lot on Netflix, because it also works with guardian items for the elderly. But and I want to do, I honestly want to think the best of people, right? But you would think with everything I sent the DA, and the DA granted me a good cause report, that Minors Counsel would have respected my request to wait into a professional, a trauma professional, someone who understands why my daughter's telling me no one could protect me, Mom. No one could protect me, that she will get evaluated before you allow her to go speak to her father. You know, there's situations where, like in our case, that my child wasn't even allowed to return home because she wasn't calling her stepmother Mom. She's a high executive for Google. She makes close to $1 million a year. You know, she's the breadwinner right now in that family. And, you know, like I said, there's no competition with me, but finding organizations that are not DV focused to support this, or working with the state attorney's office for victim witness, there's almost none, because how we speak about what this is so different. You know, like Bill 1141, that's opening a door, right? Maybe Robin could talk about this more. I know Claudia and I were talking about it. I know Petra, you probably see it. 1141 for corrosive control now allows for domestic violence victims to get a restraining order for more of the abusive situations that you don't see, you know. And I wish that would be used for children as well in these situations, because someone was saying, listen to what the child said. And I really understand where you're coming from. But when the child is scripted and pressured over and over again to say something, you can't, because they're performing. They've been weaponized, you know. I'm so sorry, Petra, you've gone through this, because that's my concern. My daughter having guilt, my child having guilt. My concern is the burden my parents have as elders with their only. When I chose to be a mom, I'll do whatever I do for my daughter. I accepted that. But to see my child or my family go through pain, that's where it hurts. Because like what you experience, you didn't get to connect with your father. And I'm sure Claudia and Matt do not want their children suffering. I know you don't want your parents suffering. I know Al Gonzalez spoke about this with his family. You know, we're talking about wounded people and a system that doesn't even know where to begin. So
I just want to add, when you share this with someone that's not familiar, they actually wonder, did you do something to deserve this? What did you do? You know, like, that's outrageous. You know, like, I don't understand. What did you do? And you didn't do anything wrong. You were just a normal parent, but somehow this other parent is doing everything they possibly can to diminish you, to degrade you. And then when they teach your child these behaviors, and it is a script, they talk with adult language in a form that they're just mimicking this alienator. It's like a puppet master. And when they speak to you, it's like if you're speaking through the alienator. It's just very strange. It's all the same across for all these parents. If you share stories, you know, my child does that too. Like, oh my God, you know, the isolation. When the child visits you and all they want to do is stay in their room. They don't want to eat dinner or lunch with you. They just want to stay in there all day long to avoid you, so that they are not engaging with you, because they're going to have to return to that alienator, and that alienator is not going to want to know that they had any type of relationship with you, that they
Yes.
spent time with you. Like when my son visits, every time he visits, he has to go and call his parent, he has to call his father. And it's very strange. It's like checking in, and it's sabotaging your visit. The child can never just normalize and relax. It's always that control that they must have. So I mean, I just wanted, and you also hear from parents that, you know what, you just got to get over this. You got to get past it. You cannot get over this.
No.
It's not going to happen.
I have a question.
I advocate a lot to try to push this. I advocate in Texas. We just had an equal share parenting bill. We were at the Capitol. We're advocating for other bills. In Texas and every state, there's an interference law. There's a interference with child custody. We help parents learn how to do that, because it is a state jail felony to withhold a child, and a lot of parents don't know that. So that's what I do in Texas to try to help stop a lot of this.
Just real quick, I know, so Nancy keeps on saying, and thank you, why doesn't the child talk to the judge in private? Remember, these children are scripted. The control is not just when they're with them, it's when they're without them. The new judge we had told myself and minors counsel, your child is very articulate. She knows what she's talking about. She's credible, basically, is what he's saying. But what he doesn't know, she probably went through hours and hours of harassment to get to that point, just to perform. That's why you cannot rely on talking to a child in private. My child was spoken to in Zoom. They could have been in the room with my daughter and they would have never known. That's the other issue during COVID, okay? The isolation. And this is why the bills that are coming out to speak to a child to make a decision at 12, we can't do that. Their brains are not developed. These are the most sacred gifts we have on this planet, our children. And we're not protecting them. The systems are not protecting them. They're saying, well, they can make the decision. This child's trying to survive. They are trying to survive. I'm sorry, Scott. I just had to say that.
No, thank you. Thank you. Trish.
I love what you're saying, and I'd also like to just, articulate what I was typing in the chat, is that before that, okay, so child psychology is a complicated form of science, and children are learning how to move and understand the world up to that point, and they're taught their language, they're taught the way to think through their parental language patterns. Like, this is how children are taught to think, right? And so as they're developed, especially before 7 years old, the way that they think is called magical thinking. So you can really fantasy up any sort of thing for these children and get them to say what you want them to say, because you can you can gamify it. So in the sense of, like, if you want to ask what the children want, if, for example, my dad, he was really strict with my mom, thought that she wasn't a fit parent, and he would tell me things like his wife and him would just tell me how unfit my mother was. They would make me change my clothes the second I got there because she smoked cigarettes outside. It was just really, and do you know what that does to a child? It pits this person against the other person because it's quote unquote wrong and dirty. Like, their judgment and their impression is so strong when you're a child. You want to fit in, you want to belong, and you want to be safe. And you're scared when your parents are fighting. You're scared when there's separation. You don't understand what's happening because this is an adult world. So I just want to throw that out into the world as well.
I want to piggyback on that with a thought, but really leading to a question that goes along with what we just heard from Trish. My understanding of child psychology is that the small child always wants to love mommy and daddy no matter what. And even children that were abused, their inner child, even as an adult, deep down wants to still love mommy and still wants to love daddy. And of course, it's devastating and very confusing when they are kind of forced to choose one parent or the other, or to have to believe believe something negative or ugly, like Trish was just describing about the parent. Now, my question is not to diffuse the horror, and that's why I use that word, the horror that Claudia and Suzette and you have gone through and are still going through, and the years lost. So what I'm about to ask is not to diffuse any of that. But in the big long run picture, I would guess that quite often the child that was told that, let's say the father was telling the child that the mother was bad, all those years go by. Once that child becomes an adult and really wants to meet their mother, really wants to connect, I would imagine that there's a big turnaround. And in the long run, painful, horrible, but years later, years lost. But in the long run, most children who are in that situation actually ultimately come around, want to meet mom or want to meet their dad and get to know them, and that there's deep healing that takes place. Is that an accurate guess? Is that accurate?
No, that's not accurate actually. A lot of children, so we done research, like I mentioned, for over 200 children who have been alienated as a child. And there are only, and I have also interviewed, in addition to those 200, I have interviewed other adult children who are alienated, that remain to be alienated. And there are only 4 scenarios where the child will wake up to the situation of being alienated. So the child has been scripted and pressured and brainwashed all of their life. They don't change that narrative until something very traumatic happened to wake them up. So if life just continues, they will never look out for that alienated parents. They will never reach out. They will continue to reject that alienated parents, and they could just probably end their life and never know.
That's really heartbreaking. Yes, Suzette.
If I may, and I'm sure Claudia's been talked to this too, and I get that a lot. Well, maybe she'll come back, And by the way, my daughter just opened up more to me when she got a job at Starbucks during the pandemic. I could have been saying no, she has lung issues. keep her home, because that's what opened her up more, because I wasn't hearing anything from her. There's no guarantee. This is your only time if you legally, assume you have legal rights, because like Claudia and I know, they take away your rights. So you can't advocate. So you can't find more evidence. You get boxed out. And that includes with some of the attorneys, because this is really big. Some of the attorneys realize how big this is. They don't want to continue with the case. Your only hope is anytime you have for the child 18 and under. Now, my daughter is 16 now. She's aging out. According to the court system, they think she's too old. She's not. She's missing me. She is missing me so much and waiting for me to help her. She's waiting for people to say, this is not okay. This is what we're going to do to take her out of that loyalty conflict. But the problem is when you are so scripted, you think that's the reality. I was wrong thinking the other way. And that mindset may never go back, or that vulnerability to be hurt again for being separate. Because when you start researching attachment, it is so unnatural for a child to detach from the other parent. No matter what problems I had with my former partner, I made sure that my daughter knew he loved her. I didn't say the details, and I didn't ask for child support. I didn't ask for spousal support. It only came when things got really bad for me, the child support in the very beginning, because she was with me in the beginning. Because I want him to take that money and just become a better dad. But that challenge I'm facing it now, as with other attorneys I speak to, or my attorney, waiting to her come visit you, waiting her to come. No, they're waiting for you to come. They're waiting for the court to say, no, there's an issue here. This child needs to be reunited. I've had a family therapist. I've had an expert who's a therapist and a former law attorney say something to minors counsel, and it has been completely ignored. She has even discredited them in front of the judge. So I personally am running out of time. And my other concern is we're assuming that parents are going to be alive long enough for the child to realize or get help. I have a pulmonary disability. 2 years ago, they told me I wasn't going to be around in 8 months. And the court's like, too bad. We don't care. It's not our problem. You know, I would love to say that the children will heal. I really hope that and wake up. In some cases they do. But everything I'm hearing, even a case where the child's 50 years old, there's a parent that I know that's still dealing with those alienation behaviors. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And then it's repeated because I believe my former spouse was alienated or went through something similar. And then it becomes generational.
As per your suggestion, Suzette, I've brought Kitty Davidson on. And so I'm going to put the spotlight on you, Kitty. And then after Kitty speaks, to kind of wrap up, everybody's going to get one chance. I'm going to ask everybody to give kind of their closing remarks, their closing thoughts. So just want to kind of put that out there for structure. And thank you. This has been profound, and I really appreciate. I've learned so much tonight. I'm quite humbled. Kitty, welcome. And I'm glad that Suzette suggested you join us. And you provide a really important resource. And I think some of the people watching this show might find that valuable. So please tell us about that.
Okay. I'll give you a little history about myself. I'm an integrative performance and wellness coach and psychotherapist. And one of the things that I offer for my clients is something called I-Rest Yoga Nidra. It was developed for individuals at Walter Reed who were experiencing PTSD, trauma, anxiety, depression, sleep issues, general stress, etc. And what this is, it's a great way to help people get in touch with their body, because what I've recognized, even with my clients who, yes, actually, it's for veterans. Yes, it was developed for veterans. Thanks for noticing that. So yes, what I've noticed with my clients is with all the trauma that they've experienced, it's creating anxiety, it's creating medical issues. And that's the integrative part of me, integrative medicine issues, is that if we don't address our traumas, if we don't address our anxiety, if we don't address our stress, it's going to attack our bodies. It's amazing what that does. So through this particular meditation practice, I teach people to get back in touch with their bodies. I help you understand that you can have this anxiety and you can do something with it. And the I-Rest Yoga Nidra actually helps you calm down, because we're deactivating or bringing down your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or your flight, which is where that anxiety and that trauma is coming from. It's like I have clients who have told me before, it's like a very productive nap, because I take you through this nice meditation and you learn to calm your entire body, your mind, your brain, the physical body. And it's very supportive. And I support my clients through the whole process. I do like a whole workshop that I can teach you what the whole process is. And you just there's a lot of health and wellness that comes from that. So that's one of the things I offer for individuals with trauma and anxiety.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yes, Yoga Nidra was developed for veterans with PTSD, a non-chemical restructuring. And there's a lot of trauma research these days, thank goodness, because there's a lot of things that we didn't know, especially for children, right? And we're talking about the impact on children right now. We're talking about parents, and we're talking about, the way that things are dissolving in the world, some of the systems of oppression. We're actually starting to look at the way that the systems are created. And this is really part of the conversation, is to get this, if you like what you're hearing here, or if this is impactful for you at all, share this out, because this needs to be heard, right? If you want to help children, it really is about helping their parents educate themselves to be healthy parents, as well as dissolving, narcissism, dissolving classist behaviors, such as like a parent who will utilize their power and their money and their finances to get a child and not be as present as they can be with their child because the other parent can be. You know, there's ways to do this, and it's really a larger conversation. I'm sure that most of these people have organizations that you can support, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great segue, Trish. So as each of you kind of share your final thought for the night, let us know, let people listening and watching, and remember, most people watching the show are watching the replay, how they can get a hold of you or what you'd like for them to know. And if you also do put it in the chat box, I'll save the chat and then I'll copy your key information and put it into the Facebook feed. We're going out to about 15 different Facebook groups and pages, but I'll put it in the main ones. And also, last, as you were sharing your final thoughts, if anyone has any advice for Matt, I'm certainly, Matt, I'm thinking maybe what Kitty's resources might be a good resource for you. And so I'll start with Kitty and go backwards. Kitty, how do people get a hold of you? And what would you like for your last, for your final thought to be, and how people can reach you?
Well, first you can reach me at my email address, and I'll put this information in the chat as well. It's Kitty D at kittydavidsoncoaching.com. You can reach out to me via email, or you can call me, that kind of thing. I'm really good at getting back with people. I think the one thing that I listened to all night long was I have a bunch of tender individuals in this group. And it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability in order for you to come to the group and actually tell your story. Tell it loud, tell it proud, and make sure everyone hears it, because this is a huge issue. And I have adult clients who are the children that were victimized from these individuals who kept them from the other parent. And it creates such a negative dynamic in their life, and it hurts their relationships and their overall sense of well-being. And so please speak out and do the best that you can with what you have. Honestly.
Kitty, I've actually pulled up Kitty's website so you can see it. It's Kitty Davidson Coaching. And if each of you can put your websites that you would want me to pull up when I introduce you for your closing remarks, I'll do for you what I just did for Kitty. And again, it's Kitty, Kitty, Davidson, Davidson, coaching.com. And thank you, Kitty, for joining us on such short notice.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Robin, I'm going to go to you next. I'm so grateful for your presence and all that we've learned from you. What are your final thoughts? And do you want to be reached? I know you're semi-retired, so I don't know if you want people to reach out to you or not. So let us know.
I am truly retired, no clients, not doing it. I hope I never see the inside of family court again. I can't stand it there. So it's really wonderful not to be doing that.
That's very clear. I appreciate your clarity.
One thing I was going to say, I wrote a chapter in this book, Domestic Violence, Abuse, and Child Custody. And one of the things I said in the chapter is I would like the family court to look and see what they've done. I mean, I am watching people who are not suffering in the second generation. I'm looking at a mother where they give the kid to an abusive father, kid ends up a heroin addict, has a child with another heroin addict, and the harm family court does just goes on through the generations. And I would like to see some studies that look at, okay, we did this, we declared this woman or this man was just terrible. Well, what was the result of all that? I mean, in another business, you look at how things came out, and I would like to see the family court look at itself and see what did we do to people. and I'm not going to do it anymore.
Sure. God, really appreciating you being with us. Thank you so much, Robin. Thank you. Suzette, I'm putting the spotlight on you. And I actually pulled up your website. But why don't you give your final thoughts and then I'll bring up your website.
First of all, I really want to thank you for doing this show for us and allowing us to have a platform to speak. I personally, this is the first time I'm speaking publicly about my situation and coming out more, because I think there's a lot of stigmas and shame, a lot of families going through it. And of course, we want to protect our children to make sure they're not demonized and victimized. Because what happens is sometimes the more you speak out, the more that child is attacked and told that we're going after them when we're not. So thank you so much for doing the show, Scott and Trish. I really want to say thank you, and thank you for Robin, especially as our elder here, and being here. And I really want to thank Petra to be the voice of a child who has been alienated. And I really want to thank Claudia for connecting me to this wonderful multi-universe of support. And I mean, she's the one, she's like a lot of resources for me from the parental side. And Kitty, who has become an amazing friend of mine, to pop in here. And Matt, I want to hear more. I know we've connected here and there. So thank you for doing that last minute. Last thoughts real quick is become an advocate, research. Please do not assume. And even if you're not a parent, please support, if whatever you can, support the parents. Contact your state legislature, write the family court system, hold a minors council accountable, because a lot of times you can't even make a complaint without it retaliating behind you. Make sure that people understand that not all therapists are suitable for this, not all attorneys. Make sure that if you do have an attorney, that attorney is not trying to get your case folded so they don't have to do the work. If you're not a part of it, please educate yourself so that we could change this paradigm for the generations to come. And and please, if you can, the more we get a voice in the media, the more we could do shows like this, the more we could support that change. And let's protect our children. Thank you so much.
And I am pulling up your website, SuzetteMarieRios.com. And it looks like you teach emphatic coaching and counseling.
Yeah, so my academic background is in communication studies. So I study a lot about social discourse and power dynamics. My background in education, a lot of the family counselors, a lot of people in education may not understand that when there's a conflict, what's going on, and sometimes they're called as witnesses. So I'm hoping that we do more training. Got to fix some items on my website. But my whole base is be an advocate. You could be angry, but come from the heart, because we're going to burn ourselves out. You could get angry. Sometimes I need someone to be angry for me, but it's going to be really hard until we understand one another.
Yeah. Thank you, Suzette. Thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna go to Matt just briefly. Matt, obviously you're not promoting a service, but it looks like you are open to receiving communication. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'm open to that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, I'm just a normal dad that just had this happen to me, and I'm just trying to get through it. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate this call. My heart goes out to everybody, and anybody that volunteers to help out. I'm floored. So it's about the kids, and in my opinion, laws need to change. We need laws. We need some sort of 50-50 parenting for at least the initial period before something is permanently decided. It's just a game. You're going to delay court cases. You're going to keep delaying hearings. I just had one delayed today, another month. My third summer, I'm not going to see my girls.
Oh,
Third Father's Day. Like, I'm sorry, what did I do? It's just inhumane. And people need to be held accountable for what their jobs are. But starting laws like domestic violence laws, we need to protect the people that are accused falsely accused. There needs to be penalties for that. Otherwise, it's going to be abuse. You know, you can take, it's disgusting because there are domestic violence victims that aren't even heard. And then there's people that lie about it. So there needs to be false accusation laws where they're held accountable. It would stop a lot of that. So there needs to be laws in place to protect parents. And you know, that's all I really had to say. Just in my off chance my kids are watching, I love you guys. I love you, Melissa and Amy, and my stepkids too, who I raised, Ellie and Mitch. I love you guys. That's it.
Matt. Claudia, I'm putting the spotlight on you. And again, thank you. You kind of started us off, and I'd love to hear what your final thoughts are, and if you'd like, if there's a way you'd like people to reach you or connect with you.
Well, I'm affiliated with Service Members and Veterans versus Parental Alienation. I'm a veteran myself, a Marine Corps veteran, so I try to help veterans that are going through this. To me, the biggest thing is self-care. When you're experiencing this, you really need to take care of yourself because you are your biggest advocate. You are, whether you have an attorney or not. You need to start advocating for yourself, but by educating yourself with what's going on. That way, you know, you're prepared on how to handle some of this, the high conflict. Also get involved with legislation. That's what I've learned to do. This is no longer just about my child. It's not. So I will do what I can, as much as I can, to get some of these laws changed to help other parents. And a lot of parents will want things done, but they need to get involved. They need to know who their legislators are. They need to meet their legislators. They need to be able to identify their legislators and start requesting meetings. You know, get parents that are in the same county or the same district together. Hey, we have all the same issue. How are we going to fix this? This is what the law says, and it's not being followed. I need your help. I'm your constituent. So you really need to get involved and use your voice. And that's what I've learned to do. And just little at a time, you know, things will get moving, but you can't just expect others just to do it for you. You need to be your advocate. That's my biggest takeaway, is that.
Thank you so much, Claudia. I kind of saved Petra for last because Petra, the more that I read about you and see what you've accomplished, it's really quite remarkable. We didn't really get a chance to go into it, but she's actually a filmmaker. She's made several films that have had a strong social impact, all about the issues that are so challenging. Her film Reborn was about domestic violence and even played at the Chinese Theater and has won over 24 international awards. She has a new feature film out called At All Costs, about a 5-year custody battle. So, you know, definitely in the future, Petra, I'd love to have you come back onto the show and really, you know, maybe see some clips from your films and talk with you more about some of those topics. But of course, I have pulled up your Hero to Victim website. And so I'd love to, of course, hear your final thoughts. But then also, as I pull up this website, there's a lot here. So I just want to invite everybody to go or write down victimtohero.com. And I love that. It's a great title for a website, and it's a great message. Learning to go from being a victim to being a hero. And she has a lot going on here. Case studies, information and data, coping and thriving. I mean, clearly, Petra, you've put a lot of time and energy and attention and money into this cause. So I really respect you very, very much and look forward to hearing what some of your final thoughts are.
Thank you so much. And I definitely would love to come back and share more. But for me, I guess my final thought is that parental alienation is real. It's a very big problem. It's affecting millions of parents in America alone and all around the world. It's a problem that does not discriminate. It doesn't matter where you are, who you are. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It is not a gender issue. It happens to men, women, And if you don't believe that this is a big problem, talk to these children. Talk to these children, because these adult children of parental alienation, they are the only one that can tell you what happened behind the closed doors. They are the only one that not fighting for custody or child support payment or trying to get even with their exes. So, this is a very real problem. It's very big. And the solution has to come at all level. You have to change the society level to change the public opinion about it. We need to change the narrative. We need to bring awareness. We need to change the system by changing the law. So like Claudia talk about, Suzette talk about, Matt talk about, we need parents to advocate for this. We need everybody to advocate for this. So the law need to change. We need the law to recognize that parental alienation is child abuse. No question about this. This is a child protection issue. It needs to be recognized. And I do hear what Robin said about, sometimes you would have abuser that will try to abuse the system and pretend to be the victim. But if you don't recognize the problem, then you cannot get the professional to get education so that we can have better diagnostic tool. Because just because somebody that's going to be misusing the term, it doesn't mean that we don't recognize that term. It's the same with any kind of abuse. You have to recognize it, because abuser will always try to play the victims. It's the system to put it's for the system to put in the right education, the right training, so that we can get it fixed. So we need to change at the system level. We need it change at the industry level. We need professional to recognize this problem, to get education in this problem, get the training. And then at the personal level, we need the solution at the personal level, because you're looking at any marginalized group. You look at, domestic violence, you got suicide hotline, you got domestic violence shelter, you got resources for many type of marginalized group. But when it comes to parental alienation, there's no hotline, there's nowhere to go. You cannot go to a shelter, you don't get help anywhere. That's a big problem. So for parents, you have to be the hero. You can be the hero. You need to be the hero to be in the driver's seat, to drive your case so that you can fight for your children and reunite with your children. Because you cannot expect the alienators to behave. You cannot expect your children to stand up. So you have to be in the driver's seat. So at Victim to Hero, like you show on our website, and we also on Facebook, Victim to Hero, we have a lot of resources. It's all free for parents. So you can go on there. We have multiple events a week. We bring in professional and expert forensic psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, lawyers. We teach you how to fight your case. We teach you how to heal from your trauma. You teach you how to deal with how to handle your children when they misbehave, things like that. We look at all these different aspects of dealing with parental alienation. We provide all these tools for you guys. It's all free. And then we also raise public awareness. So we have different public awareness campaigns. We also trying to change the law. So we also support people like Claudia in her advocacy work to, support law changes. So really, solutions have to come at all levels. It's a very big problem that not been talked about enough. So I'm so grateful for you, Scott and Trish, both of you. And Trish, I'm so sorry that you actually also a child of this situation. And I'm so grateful for you to speak up. And yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you all for your beautiful shares. And this is Straight Talk. And I'm definitely an advocate for chipping away at domestic violence and child abuse. That's one of the big things that I do in the world. I belong to a program or an organization called One Love that helps young children in school systems understand what healthy and unhealthy behaviors and relationships are. And that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about. And it's, we're now at this, time in the world and in our own ages, in your 30s or something like that, is when you realize the impact of things that were on your childhood is now impacting you as a parent or as an adult. And so I want to be a safe place for children, and I want to be a safe place for people and adults. So that's why I do the work that I do in the world. I am a self-love and codependency coach, because the traumas that I've experienced in my life have caused a lot of self-esteem issues that I've been just chipping away at for a while. And the things that, learning about my own, stuff in the world in my own childhood and being like, oh God, that's why I do the things that I do. Learning about my own attachment style and what caused those things. Like, that's important. And Petra, Claudia, Matt, Robin, Suzette, thank you so much for sharing your stories, sharing your truth, and sharing your expertise and your wisdom. It is so, so important in the world because this is the work, right? We're impacting our children in every behavior that we do. Please be compassionate and loving.
Beautiful.
If you
I
want
want
to go
I
to,
want
I know you were looking at me like, I was like,
to,
oh.
no, I just want to toot her horn for a moment. Trish is an amazing coach. She, of course, has her own weekly show, the Self Love Show, every Thursday morning. And she's a great coach if you're looking for support, if you really want to learn how to love yourself, how to heal some of your childhood trauma. You can find her at her website. It's embodied-happiness.com. And she really does lead the path to radical self-acceptance. So again, it's embodied-happiness.com. And I cannot say enough about what a brilliant coach she is. Thank you, everybody. This has been a very humbling evening for me. I'm really, at age 65, I learned a lot tonight. I didn't know any of this, really. So thank you for educating me and educating so many. I'm going to boost this. I'm going to put it on our YouTube. I'm going to do everything I can to get this out to as many people as possible. And of course, you'll be able to take this and put it on your various websites and share it with people. And God bless each and every one of you. Maximum grace for all the people who are watching this, who are learning and perhaps dealing with similar issues. Thank you. God bless and good night.